What is up, everybody? I'm going to do a quick little introduction over Shakespeare and Romeo and Juliet because that's where we're going with our next unit. I know it's weird just because, hello, it's online, but we're going to try and make this as fun and as streamlined as possible. So just enjoy my presentation on who William Shakespeare is. So here's a drawing of him. You can see he was quite a looker. He was born in 1564, died in 1616. He lived in Stratford-upon-Avon, England. That's where he grew up. In his life, he wrote 37 plays and 154 sonnets, which is a specific kind of poem that we'll talk about later on. He actually started his life out as an actor, which makes sense. This was his home that he grew up in, pretty cute. His wife was Anne Hathaway, which not the current Anne Hathaway that is in movies like Les Miserables and The Devil Wears Prada. No, his wife was just named Anne Hathaway. He was a stage celebrity. He was an actor for the Lord Chamberlain's Men London Theatre Company, and he was the principal playwright. So in this instance, principal means main. He was the main playwright for this theater company, just because he was pretty talented and he wrote a lot of plays that really resonated with a lot of people. That's why it's still considered really important to at least be exposed to Shakespeare and his stories, because he wrote human interest stories that anyone can relate to. And I promise anyone can. And then in 1599, Lord Chamberlain's theater company built the Globe Theatre, where most of his plays were made. You can actually do an online tour of the Globe Theatre, so I'll try and figure out how to do that at some point, but not today. He wrote comedies, histories, and tragedies. So comedies were generally more funny. They were lighthearted. They would always end in like a big dinner or a wedding because it was some sort of celebration. Histories were things based on true events. So if you've ever heard of the play Julius Caesar, where he gets stabbed 23 times, that's an example of a historical play. And then tragedies, which is what Romeo and Juliet is. You might think that Romeo and Juliet is actually more of a romance, but I'm going to spoil the whole play for you right now. They both die. Isn't that wild? I know, we haven't even started reading it, and I already tell you what happens. I feel like most of you already know that, but we're going to be referencing it a lot from the beginning. And also, the full name of Romeo and Juliet is The Tragedy of Romeo and Juliet. So tragedies are sad things, emotional. Generally, a lot of people die, a lot of fighting. All right, the theater included plays produced for the general public. So the Globe Theatre and generally all old-timey theaters, they were roofless, open-air kind of thing. So it was just an open stadium. Think of like Target Field. That would be the type of environment, except smaller. No artificial lighting, so all the plays had to be performed during the day. I know in our time we think of the theater as like a nighttime activity that you go out with your family and it's a big night out. In the 1500s, there wasn't any artificial lighting, so they couldn't light things for people to go see plays at night. So it was generally a midday activity. And then it was a courtyard, a big empty space with 3 levels of seating. So you can kind of picture that. I'll show some pictures just so you know as well. We're gonna skip this video. You can watch it if you want. Sorry. This is the Globe Theatre today. The original Globe Theatre where Shakespeare performed his plays were performed is actually, it burned down. So it's not there anymore. But there is a recreation of it that you can go visit in London, which I hope to get to at some point in my life. So as you can see here, this is the stage where it was performed. The audience, the lower class citizens, the poorer citizens, they would sit in this area, and then you've got the 3 tiers of seating, and the higher up you go, the more expensive the seats are. So wealthy people got benches, they got to sit down. The poorer people could still go see the plays, but they had to stand. And if they wanted a good spot, they had to stand there early, like getting ready for a festival or a concert. So they couldn't really go to the bathroom. So they just went. Yeah, kind of gross. Everyone, unless you were rich, was uneducated and illiterate, which means they couldn't read, except for the rich people. So the plays had to find a way to kind of get all of the people interested in it. So it was much more interactive than it is today. So if you go to a play today, generally you want to sit there and you want to clap when it's appropriate. But back in Shakespeare's day, it was much more give and take. So if the audience really liked something, they would cheer, or if they hated something, they would boo, and it was an interactive journey. And if you've ever seen things where people throw tomatoes at shows they don't like. That was the kind of thing that would go on with Shakespeare's plays. There's the bench seating. You can kind of see in there, there's all those little benches. That's where the rich people would sit. And then this is the view from the ground. So you can actually see where the play is. There are different staging areas. There's the stage where you can actually see things. The dressing and storage rooms are in galleries surrounding the stage, just so if you were doing something up top, you could change into your costume and then go out. And then there was the second level gallery. That's where we get the famous balcony scene from Romeo and Juliet, which I can't wait to go over. There was a trap door in the main stage area, and that would be where you would have back up, Miss Millay, settle down. A lot of Shakespeare's plays involve ghosts. I don't think there's a ghost in Romeo and Juliet, probably not. And they would have a trapdoor on stage so that people could actually, fall into it or pop out. So it gave more of a spooky atmosphere. And then the heavens were way up top, and that had those angelic figures, as you saw in the picture before. Another picture of the stage. Differences from theater today and during Shakespeare's time, there was no scenery. There wasn't really any props. Wait, there were a lot of props. There was no scenery, so there was no backdrops like you would have today. If they wanted to say that they were in the woods or something, they would talk about being in the woods. There would be no trees on stage. There were really elaborate costumes. They would always have extensive outfits to wear to really convey what was going on. Lots of props, a lot of sword play, and it would be fast and colorful and exciting because a lot of their audience members didn't know how to read, and they didn't go to school, so they didn't know much. And so they would try to make it more exciting in different ways, if that makes sense. Here's the stage again. Actors, women weren't allowed to act, so it was just only men and boys. For the female roles, they would often have boys whose voices hadn't changed yet. They would play the women, and it would have been considered indecent or inappropriate for a woman to appear on stage. So it was all men and young boys on stage. I'm going to skip some of this stuff and go back to it later when we actually get into more of the play. But I just wanted to give you a little introduction on who this guy is. All right, I'll talk to you later. Bye.